All right. Oh, I forgot it goes live like this. All right. All right. Katt Williams. Speaking truth, Katt Williams, right even when he's wrong. Uh, if you haven't been on YouTube, if you haven't paid attention to anything that's gone viral in the past week, Katt Williams did an interview on Club Shay Shay, which I hate that name. I despise that. It's the stupid. Do you like that name? Shannon Sharp's podcast
I
name.
mean, if he goes by Shay Shay, then it's Shay Shay. I don't care.
It's so dumb. It just reminds me of like I think you worked in radio, right?
Yeah,
It reminds me of like every like morning zoo.
yeah,
Um, I forget like the zoo is like the typical one, but it just reminds me of like that, like the Breakfast Club, the
yeah.
morning, like all that stupid, like just call it, just call it your name. It's a Shannon Sharp podcast. Jesus. Anyways, so Cat Williams was on there, and just this dude went all in with his story and how he feels about certain things going on, and not just Hollywood, but the comedy scene. I think it translates to everything. And if you haven't seen it, it's a 2 hour, 2.5, almost 3 hour interview. So I don't blame you. It might take you a few days. I highly suggest watching it. But it was interesting because he really spoke some truth. Now, you got to watch a lot of it, right?
Yeah.
Did you um, get through? I know a lot of people think he was just kind of going in on a lot of people, like he went in on a lot of the cast of Friday, Ludacris, Tiffany Haddish, Faison
Haddish.
Love. Okay, I always think Hashish, so Haddish,
Hadish.
Hashish, um, Faison Love, Cedric the Entertainer, Steve Harvey, Chris Tucker, even at one point, which was funny. Did you see the Chris Tucker part?
Yes.
Where he talks about Chris Tucker being real close friends with Michael Jackson and how Michael
Yeah.
Jackson's nickname for him was Christmas.
Yeah.
Which, even so, as I watched this interview, and I highly suggest if you're going to watch it, do this too. Uh, Go and Google or YouTube other things that they're talking about. And at one point, I don't know what it was. Michael Jackson was still alive, and there was a concert with Usher, Michael Jackson, and then Chris Tucker comes out on stage and
Yeah.
does his Michael Jackson moves. And Michael
Yeah.
Jackson starts rolling on the ground laughing because, Chris Tucker is just hilarious. Just him as his being. He's like a Chris Farley dude. Like, just his
Yeah.
presence is humorous. Um, but Kevin, yeah, I mean, oh, and Kevin Hart. I don't know if I said that. That was like the biggest news out of this. That he called Kevin Hart a plant. Um, and I think that transcends the interview. I think that's why maybe it was the most shocking thing, but it's also the overarching theme of this. Did you have any specific things that you really took away outside of the Kevin Hart's of the Hollywood plant?
I mean, they started talking about. I mean, he said Illuminati stuff. So
He did.
to put that out there, just as a fact, is, in my opinion, both silly and kind of a just a cliffhanger. Like, I mean, you say Illuminati like it's a thing that it permeates. It's just another one of these theories that just permeates the entire zeitgeist, like the Rothschilds or Uncle Soros. What did we say last time?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Uh, so um, I don't know what uh, kind of shady is trying to put on these people as far as so and so is the Illuminati, but I mean, generally speaking, if you're saying somebody's a part of the Illuminati, you're saying that they're puppet masters. You're not saying they're the puppets. So,
Well,
uh,
and even just to be clear, so after when he was talking about that Illuminati thing, and he specifically one of the times he specifically mentioned it, right after he said they're a cabal. He was talking about a few different people in Hollywood, and he said it's a cabal of people that are kind of like you're saying. They were the puppet masters. They were the ones who were calling the shots. That they were the ones that if you weren't playing the game, if you weren't doing what they said, like multiple times he talks about throughout the interview, he won't. go into a dress, and he talked about how Martin Lawrence went into a dress, how Kevin Hart went into a dress, all these people that said they weren't going to wear a dress. And I don't think the dress part is that important. It's more about like what they said, their word, and then all of a sudden they got enough money where they were willing to throw on a dress just for some money. Maybe I said before, Kevin Hart did say, he said, it's fascinating because Kevin Hart specifically said, I'm a brand and it wouldn't be good for my brand if I got in a dress. And then the YouTube video cuts to him in a dress.
on SNL.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So,
But I mean, that's where stuff like falls off. So I mean, you asked me what stuck out. Just throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks is kind of annoying. It's kind of a easy. I don't want to say bully. I do believe he's a bully though. Katt Williams. I think that he has enough money to intimidate people because he does have a lot of money. Um, as far as in the black community, I believe he has a good amount of sway. I don't think he has as much sway as, let's say, Tyler Perry or Denzel Washington or Kevin Hart, to be frank, or Snoop Dogg, or I mean, he talked about Cube, and I mean, I don't, I. It seems so akin to like Dave Chappelle losing his mind and getting mad with before the closer. We were talking about the closer of that kind of whining and irritation with people and just throwing a fit a bit. So that was a lot of my take on it. I think he has power. I think he has money. I don't think he's as big as he thinks he is. I don't think he's as wise as he thinks he is. I think that he is a bully. If you ever see, there's a
wait, why do you think he's a bully? You got to
okay,
clarify for me.
I'll tell you why. And it's different. Let me specify. I think it's different than being a jokester to the likes of like Jeff Ross, the roast master. He can roast people and he's really good at it. Jamie Foxx is really good at it. We've seen some of these comics like just throw down when it comes to, messing with people, right? But it's all in good fun. Katt Williams will punch down, as we like to say, on certain people. He was on a radio show, and the woman's name is Wanda. I can't remember her last name, but it's her show. And they started having issues during the interview when she mentioned basically defending Tiffany Haddish. And Kat went all in on if you think she's good, then you don't have the right to be a writer. Like she's not a good writer. She's not a good performer. It's why you can't remember her jokes. The same thing that he said in the Shay Shay thing. And that girl started, getting irritated with him, but not being mean quite yet. And then he starts going after her weave and starts talking about her weight and starts talking about her talent. And there was a back and forth, and eventually she's like, you know what, get out of here. Like she's still laughing, she's still, whatever, saying, oh man, get out of here with that craziness. Like, it's time for you to go now. Like it's her show. And he insults her as a host, he insults her as an interviewer. I'm not saying she's great. I don't think she's a purports. He decimated her. And if he is coming from a place of wanting to be highfalutin, you know, holier than thou, having righteousness on his side because he's got 8 kids he takes care of and he put all his specials together and he financed everything, then that sends mixed messages, in my opinion. So,
Why?
um,
Why does that send mixed messages? Because everything you just described is exactly, the definition of a self-made. Like, I didn't know he had 7 adopted kids. That's the other thing. Like, he's got 7 adopted kids, which is effing crazy. But if
yeah,
we talk about not even being like self-righteous or anything like that, but just somebody who's really trying to do good in a world where how many things have been exposed in the past few years of like people you think are or people who are putting out the perception of like, oh, I'm self-made, I'm this, I'm that, and they're not, you know. But in this, so I think it doesn't entitle him to it. But if nobody's going to come to his defense, and that's what, and that's the other thing I want to talk about
I
is
was
in
gonna
this,
say many people have come to his defense.
in well, no, no, no. So in this interview, he
Okay.
speaks about how, and that's really where I don't think he was punching down. I think if anything, he was punching up the whole time because
Oh,
all
in
these
many
people,
ways, yeah, yeah. No, I
and
was
and
talking
well, and,
specifically about the Wanda thing and
yeah.
Tiffany Haddish, who is definitely below him in the echelon. So
Well, now I think she dropped back down. I think she had a moment there where
yeah,
she was skyrocketing, and then I think
yeah,
she's had two DUIs or two alleged DUIs where she's sleeping in her car. The police just the other day, just like a month ago or so, she was again drunk, asleep at the wheel. Which that's why I say like
it's
she's a
terrible.
shitty person. I'm sorry, but you get one. I got one DUI, and it changed everything because I was like, I don't want to hurt myself, but more importantly, like I don't want to kill anybody else.
Yeah,
And when for me, it was always, and I've stood by this since my first DUI, since I learned that hard lesson, is that if you're rich enough, like for me, it was like we knew that AAA would offer one free ride. Like we knew cabbies that might give you a free ride, but it wasn't like I had money in my pocket to even have a driver. Tiffany Haddish, I'm sorry, I always want to call her Hashish,
Haddish.
Hashish. Um, she had driver money. She lost it. Um, through many different things. There's even more allegations that I don't want to go into because I don't know if they're true. But I still think with her, he's punching up. And I think specifically this interview, and he says this a few times, he was like, I'm not coming on here to do all this. He says, well, number one, I'm not coming on here to sell anything. But he said, I don't want to have to go after these people. But when I hear certain things, he clearly listened to, he liked that podcast. I think in the beginning, he's like, I love how you come prepared. You know what questions to ask, which, to make someone comfortable, if you know a lot about them in any kind of interview, all of a sudden it's going to give you that familiarity that a lot of other people aren't going to get. That's just like
Sure.
strictly, you know what I mean? Like any interview. Well,
As
with
opposed to somebody like Travis Smalley or God, who's the other one who would say things like, the last time we talked, and it's like it was their first interview, but he would say that shit to like
Right, would
lend
he do it
credit.
as like a joke or?
No,
Oh,
he was saying it as a performer to lend himself credit for interviewing, Obama or like whoever. It'd be like, well, the last time we spoke,
and they'd be
and
like, "This is the first time I've met you."
yeah, like what are you doing? Like, don't do that. Like, I mean, Robert Downey Jr. said something, I think, and just a few other people. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But
No, that's
uh,
funny. Well, I don't know Travis Smalley, so I thought it was that name sounds like a Jiminy
Tavis
Glick.
Smalley, maybe I don't want to say the wrong person. There's maybe that's the good journalist guy, and I can't remember the other guy. But uh, yeah. Anyway, I'll
I don't
come
know.
back to that.
I thought you meant like a Jiminy Glick or a Between Two Ferns, kind of like
No, oh my
that is
gosh,
humor is fucking hilarious. Like I might
absolutely.
even feel that the next time we ever interview anyone big. Like
I
the
I
last
want to
time we
say I
spoke.
want to say one more thing though. You
Yeah.
said punching up. The irony, as I see it, is as far as I can, as the way he is outward facing, he seems to think he is better than most people in a lot of ways, and that he's the one who will lift certain people up. He talked about many women that he brought up on tour and that he's helped out, and he's helped out with this movie and that. If he thinks he is better than everybody else or has a high position of himself, and call it confidence, call it whatever you want, but a good ego, let's say, how is he not punching down? Like if he's up here in
So
his mind
yeah.
is
So
and
what he
nobody is
said?
his equal in many. I mean, he talked about
No, no,
having
no.
more
I don't think.
specials than Dave, having more specials than so
Dave,
and
who?
so.
Who?
Chappelle.
When did he say that? He didn't. He didn't mention Dave until Shannon Sharp brought it up at the end of the interview.
Oh, you know what? I'm confusing the two interviews. He said that on that I believe it was in 2019. He said that he had 12 specials, Dave had 7. He said he had the most specials of any maybe he said black, but I believe stand-up comedian. And at first I was like, I don't care if I need to check that or not, but like more than anything, I didn't
Did
realize
you check it though?
I I checked that he has as many as he says he does, or at least as of 2019. Yeah, he had 12,
And how many did Dave have?
7.
Oh, so this is what I mean. It's like when he's saying stuff like that, what's the issue?
No, that's not the issue. What I was about to say was I didn't realize that quantity meant quality.
Well, so what Kat talks about specifically with that in this interview is he says,
Hmm.
I've written, I think now he was saying 19. Again, I wasn't paying attention to the numbers because as far as I was concerned, even if like Kat messed up a couple of dates a few times and he messed like there were certain things that were inaccuracies, but I
People
think
shouldn't, yeah, go with the
you know what I
minutia.
mean?
Like, who cares? Yeah,
It was one of those things, and plus, like the funniest thing for me was like Kat was talking about how he's not getting drunk, but you could clearly see like my sister when we were younger, she would say she wasn't getting drunk, and she acts
yeah,
exactly like Katt Williams when he's drunk.
yeah,
So it was very funny for me to watch. So I just knew, like, all right, some of this is kind of leaking out of like that truth serum. But
yeah.
so Kat talks about, and this doesn't apply to Dave Chappelle. I think he was more like Cedric the Entertainer, who said he didn't steal a joke from Kat on this Club Shay Shay podcast, and Kat obviously was furious, and rightfully so, because Kat clearly states like I've never stolen a joke from anyone. I've written 19 hours and put them all, put them out, whatever it is. And remember, he's saying this because this is hard work. This is not something that even I'm trying to think who else is at that caliber of y- putting out that kind of content. Like you can't keep putting out that content. And again, I'm not a Cat Williams fan. I don't think I've seen one of his specials. But you
I've
can't.
seen many of his specials. I saw the Pimp Chronicles like 10 times.
Yeah. So I mean, I can't attest to his stand up, but just the fact that he's doing that work. You know what I mean? And it was clear, like he won me over as a comic in this interview because he was trying to talk truth. I don't think he was trying to go a Jeff Ross to roast. I think he was just trying to address what he felt was bullshit, and people were, you know, lying about stealing jokes or just lying in general about him. And I get that, man, because if somebody lies about you, you want to clear the air. And I think
Sure.
through his targeting these lies and the bullshit, which he clearly states, he's like, they're forcing me to do this. You know, no one else is going to come on here, and they didn't come on here and say like, oh yeah, me and Kat squashed that. I did steal. Like they weren't honest. He's forced me to tell my side of the story, and
So
he's
wait, are
very
you
clear.
saying that all of those people he mentioned were on Club Shay Shay at some point making lies about
Not
Cat?
all of them.
Okay.
So Steve Harvey, Cedric the Entertainer. There might be a couple. Oh my God, there was another dude
Eddie
from
Money or
Friday.
what? Not Eddie Money. What was the other dude's name?
Dude from Friday. I cannot think. I didn't even write down his name. He's some radio host that got put in
Oh,
Friday
Rick
afternoon.
Smiley. Rick
Yeah,
Smiley.
he I guess did an interview. And again, I watched some of Cedric's interview specifically when he denied stealing the joke.
I
I
saw that
watched,
one too.
yeah, something to Steve Harvey. I didn't look at any of Rick Smiley just because I didn't care that much. There were more fascinating things about it. But within that truth talking and trying to like clear up or give his side, and some of the stuff was accurate. Like you said, you looked it up. He had this many specials. Some of the stuff, like at one point, he says, "I turned down $50 million" when he's talking about Dave Chappelle because Shannon Sharp goes, you don't mention Dave Chappelle at any point in this. You have a lot of respect for him." He's like, "Yeah." And when he said Dave turned down 50 million, he's like, "I did it 4 times." And I didn't want to check it, but it seemed like one of those things where you're like, "Oh, okay, who cares?" Those
Yeah.
are the things
Okay.
that I could overlook where I get where people would be like, he's just trying to boost himself up. But I think so to circle back to what you're talking about is like this hard work that comes with where he's at, and on top of that, how many Cat Williams commercials do you see of him selling Capital One or Chase or JP Morgan, or you know what I mean? Like he's not doing that to make his money. He's not, like he says. So at one point he says a quote. He says the number one job for people who sold your soul to the devil in Hollywood is to act like you didn't do it, that it never happened. And I
And
think
that's
that
very quippy. That's very quippy and everything. I'm sure he's not the person who came up with that. I mean, you could spin it about Kaiser Soze and say the best thing that, or the trickiest trick that the devil ever pulled was, making it seem like he didn't exist. Same thing. It may sound prophetic or, amazing or whatever, but the fact of the matter is that I don't think you get that cynical about stuff unless either you feel some injustice has been done to you, which I do not understand. I don't get it except for a comic who has jokes stolen from him, but that wasn't the only thing that came up. So,
so I think you got to watch more of this interview because he goes
I
in depth
watched
on it.
almost everything until the last 20 minutes. Like,
Did you
I
hear him
saw
say
from
that quote?
yeah, I heard him say the quote. I'm saying I
Oh,
don't agree with it.
so after, how do you not agree with after he specifically discussed or discuss discussed how so much of what he's addressing is because he's seen these secrets. He's seen the backdoor deals. He's seen, and again, it's hard to verify some of this stuff because we're not
It's
behind.
impossible to verify this stuff. It's
Well,
impossible, which makes it
hold
so
on,
much easier to say it.
until some of this stuff leaks out. And this isn't crazy. This
No,
isn't,
you're
and
talking
that's
about behind the scenes stuff. That's what I'm saying is impossible to verify. Verify.
it's
Him
not.
saying no
Look
to
at Louis C.K.
$50 million,
It
there's
is
no way to
not.
verify that.
Listen, no, no, no. I'm talking about like the people who sold this quote specifically, the people who
Okay.
sold their soul that have made deals that. Okay, so let's address a few different people. Harvey Weinstein, we found out these backdoor deals, they were heinous, and that's
And
how
if
some
Kat
people.
was saying this in 2014, that would be one thing.
Well, listen, Cat hasn't changed his story. What I've the small bit of Cat talking about these certain people and their character,
Yeah.
that story hasn't changed till now. And in fact, that was kind of what he was referencing of why he did this podcast. He goes, I don't have anything to sell. He's like, I'm telling my story again because it's suspect that he calls out Shannon Sharp. He says, you didn't ask them about this? Like you're the one that we trust with all this information with the good research, and you're not saying, hey, isn't that a lie? And Shannon claims like, oh, I didn't know, or how am I supposed to know if it's a lie, or I'm assuming it's the truth. And which I don't think he's guilty in it, but Cat, you can tell from what he's saying, like this, he's been done wrong. And not only has he been done wrong, but he's witnessed so much, and I think there's such a truth to that's why I think this interview has 44 million views and it's gonna top 100 million. And this
Totally.
interview, because I don't think it's because it's bullshit. I don't think it's because he's going in on everyone because he isn't. He specifically like when he talks about someone, he says a reason why. He's not just saying like, oh, they're fat, they're unfunny. He's saying like they took shortcuts, and he says this at one point. He says, Shannon, the people who take steroids don't get to talk about the people who did it naturally. They don't get to be included in those conversations. It's why there was a debate about asterisks. It's about why some of these people don't get jobs after. It's because those people are not included in the conversation. And he was translating that to comedy, with the people who have stolen jokes, who have made these backdoor deals, which I 100% agree with. And maybe it's because my history, especially in radio, is I watched, essentially what he's saying is like these people, if they have enough talent to get to the point, and I'll talk about the other group of people, but if they have enough talent to get to the point where they can cash in, like Kevin Hart, who does commercials for fucking JP Morgan. Like, do you believe Kevin Hart has a Chase Mastercard and is playing DraftKings and is using JP Morgan? I don't believe that shit. And when I did radio, I got to a point where I learned within myself that like I want to tell people about what I do, what makes sense for me. It's why when I listen to podcasts and I hear them selling the underwear, the mail order underwear or stamps, I always laugh because I'm like, it's clearly just a paycheck. And some podcasts make that known. But there are some that are trying to pawn off their characters like, this is what I use. And they'll say that. Sometimes it's part of the script. And I know because I felt so uncomfortable doing it. And then there are some people who want to get to that point. Just like we talked about The Rock. He wants to get
Mhm.
to a point where he could just sell you a fucking debit card. I don't think The Rock has this fucking debit card in his wallet. I'm sorry.
But
And
I gotta cut you off because we talked about that before. Do you think The Rock or Kevin Hart need Capital One money? Do you think that they need it?
that's my whole point. They
What's your
don't.
point?
They don't need it, and they're selling it to people just because they want more money, because they want their net worth inflated, because it gets them the third home. This is the gross inequity in our society that
Yeah,
they're
I
selling
get it.
people a poison. DraftKings isn't fucking helping people. Nobody's coming away and telling us the great stories of how they retired on DraftKings. If anything, you see more gambling warnings on these fucking apps and all around our cities. Like I live in Massachusetts. The national pastime here is fucking Keno, and it's disgusting because Keno, when I moved to California, I was shocked they didn't have Keno number one in every bar, but in number two in every Cumbies and convenience store. Because I walk right around the corner, right to the end of my block, and there's a convenience store where sometimes we'll get candy is right next to the ice cream shop. There's usually 6, 7 guys sitting in there playing Keno all fucking day, pissing their money
Colorado
away.
has a lot of Keno also, I saw.
Yeah. So I was shocked. Like it was a culture shock because growing up, I just thought like that's what you do everywhere you go, like grocery store, com not Cumbies, convenience store. Sorry, Cumbies is like a local chain. Um, the bar, you know what I mean? Like going to see my dad at the bar or whatever. When my dad would bring us with bar pizza, it was like everyone just played Keno. So I went to
Yeah,
California. I was like, where are all the Keno things? And they were like, oh, it's at the casino. And I was like, you guys are nuts. That's so weird.
back on track.
Um, well, it all relates. So, so essentially, some of these people get to a point like you're making my point. They don't need that money, but they're selling people poison because their name, like Kevin Hart, these are Kevin Hart's words. His brand can do it. They're not going to, well, I would imagine they go to anyone who has a brand that's hot at the moment. And there's a lot of people that probably turn it down because they're like, I don't use DraftKings. I don't want to promote that. And I'm not,
Yeah,
again, this might sound like you said earlier, coming off as holier than thou, but it's not. It's addressing a real sickness in society that has made the division so much worse when people don't need it. And there are people that, maybe are getting in, like I always think of payday loans and how the payday loan commercials always had the most catchy jingle. And they spent a lot of time getting that fucking earworm in your head. And, just that being able to there are certain jingles that I'm sure we all know from like Double McGum or whatever the fuck it is. McDonald's probably has, oh, I'm loving it. You know what I mean? And it's like those things, those are high crafted, fucking precise to get in your head so you never forget it. You almost crave it. Um, and that's the shit that these people are doing. Why? Because they're a brand. They don't need, he's not worried about the heat getting turned on. And that's what
right.
Kat was addressing, that these people sold out the second they fucking could. This wasn't about the craft for them. This wasn't about love and comedy. And listen, I've checked out some of Kevin Hart's stuff while I was watching this interview, and I was like, what's so special about him? I really don't get it. Even Dave Chappelle, I think, makes kind
Are
of a
you
joke.
talking about his stand-up?
Kevin Hart?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I've been watching Kevin Hart about as long as I've been watching Katt Williams. I think I was
You think he's
20,
good?
I thought he was 23 or 24 when I saw both of them. I was living in Washington State. I saw, I forget what the first video Cat put out, but it was around that 2003, 2004 time frame. And I know he was already doing stand up before that because whatever theater he had, he sold out. Um, I saw that one, and then I saw it might have only been a year or two after that. I saw Kevin Hart doing stuff, and yeah, I've always liked Kevin Hart, and I think a lot of people do. I mean, the
Well, I
stories he
think
has.
that's his. Hold on. What you just said, I think, is his specialty. I think he's a mass appeal. Fucking, you could play it for almost, I don't want to say children, but you know what I mean? Like early teens to very old people can all just be like, oh, what a funny individual, as opposed
But
to like,
not his early stuff. I mean, remember he didn't um, he didn't go through the same. How do I put it? He didn't go through the same circuits that Cat did. Katt was
Oh yeah,
very
no.
specific about the circuits that he was going through. And I think it could be said very easily that that Katt is a black comedian. He is a black culture comedian. That is, I mean, I would say 75 to 85% of his comedy. Some of it is not relatable. Some of Kevin's early stuff was not relatable. Kevin became more, if you want to call it relatable to more than black culture, to more people in a, I would say, about the same amount of time. But um, Katt Williams has a specific niche, and when he sells out something, he has a good solid hour on Indian culture. I may not like it as much if it is not contrasted or compared to my culture or American culture, let's say. I'm saying from Indian to America. Black culture um, has, has a certain quality about it that is not relatable to people outside of that culture. My sister grew up in that culture. I did not. My sister understood a lot of the early Cat Williams stuff, and I did not. I was like, I don't know what the joke is. In the same way, if you've ever heard me talk about deaf culture humor, it's like almost unrelatable to anyone who wasn't born deaf. Very few people who were deaf after birth, but it's just a different understanding. It's a different language. So I haven't enjoyed Cat's comedy as much as I have enjoyed Kevin's comedy because, like Kevin, I know what it was like to have a super weird father who said crazy shit and a crazy uncle who said crazy shit and being bullied and not wanting to fight and fighting with my words and being crazy and being funny and all of that. Like that I found relatable. I never connected that much with Cat, even though I found Pimp Chronicles very funny. Some of his later specials very funny. His last one, not so much. But Dave's last one, not so much. The one before last. You get my point. So where comedy is subjective, I appreciate it. Where it is objectively funny, I appreciate it more. And I objectively appreciate Kevin's comedy more than Cat. But it doesn't mean he's not talented.
Oh yeah, no, no, no. When I was saying, like, so I think outside of talent, and that's why like talking about what Cat's message, what like he was trying to get across, was that these people have talent. I don't think he was trying to take as much as he was saying like they don't write their own stuff. Well, when he was saying they don't write, I think he literally meant like you know Cedric might not be right and his name might be on that, but you and I know like a lot of these comics will pay people to write stuff for them and then just own it. You
Yeah,
know,
but that's not nearly as common as you think. I mean, people sell jokes all the time. I mean, Dave knows that. George Carlin never freaking did that because he wrote his stuff by himself in his apartment and worked on it for days, weeks, whatever. There are people who do certain things. When you're going through the circuits and
so yeah,
you're inner
that's what Cat specifically addressed. You know, like
yeah,
how, in fact, the way he talked about crafting a joke, you know, you only get that from intimate experience. He talks about how in January he's got it in his notes, how in March, you know, he's worked it through this and it has the complexion it does, and then by
yeah.
I forget the next time, you know, he's basically talking. It's like the joke has seasons. Um, and you don't get that understanding when you've taken shortcuts. And in fact, that's what Cat.
That's not true. That's not true either. Dane Cook could tell you the same thing and he skyrocketed past a point that nobody thought possible. Cat's been doing it for 30 years. I'm not taking anything away from him. I'm saying anyone who
Yeah,
has been
but
in
what
it for 30
shortcuts did
years
Dane take?
has an intimacy with it that others don't, period.
I don't think Dane took like I don't think his career was made of shortcuts.
No, neither do I, but some people do.
Oh. Yeah, no, I don't think there's much proof in that. I think outside of the couple jokes he was accused of stealing, um, I
No,
think
he
Dane.
he stole a lot. Dane Cook adopted a lot, just like Menstelia adopted a lot, just like Schumer. So, I mean,
Um,
anyway, that's not the point.
so so Cat, I don't think is addressing them being talentless. What he's specifically saying is that talent got them to where they could capitalize, and that's my word, um, on so many other things and kind of rewrite their history and their history, which a lot of people do. And I think why this is striking such a chord is because we just saw the nepotism baby talk, the Nepo baby talk, which is another thing that fools so many people. And the underlying theme between these is it really undercuts and cuts out the legs of so many people with talent that don't get those doors opened, that the comic that is still a waiter who just can't find the time to get to an audition or to do that stand up another night. Or and I'm telling you, because when I was doing stand up there were some brilliant people, brilliant
We'll
people
see
that
him.
will never see the light of day, you know?
Right.
But then there's people like Nick Cage who can't fucking stop making like this fucking Nepo baby, Nick Cage, is exhausting. He's just always in stuff. And Nick Cage is the dude who, remember, he changed his name to Cage because his uncle is Francis Ford Coppola. Like,
Coppola.
so if you wonder how somebody who wasn't like the riding joke, at least in the late '90s, early 2000s, whenever he was doing Con Air and all, like pumping out a movie every month or whatever he was
National
doing.
treasure and all that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Like the joke was, this guy can't act. How's he continuing to play Nick Cage in every role until they made the movie? What was the meta movie? Like, I Am Nick Cage. Remember the movie Nick Cage put out that was like about him being him? There's a
Uh,
movie
I
about Nick
I don't
Cage
remember
being.
that one. I mean, vaguely remember that. I thought you were going a John Malkovich sort of way, but
Oh, but
or
essentially,
adaptation. Adaptation was a
yeah.
fantastic movie if you ever saw that.
I know what movie you're talking about. I
You
haven't seen
have
it.
to see that fucking movie. God, that's in my
I just
if it's not in my top 10, it should be. That's one of my
listen.
favorite movies ever.
I
Charlie
almost watched.
Kaufman.
I almost watched it the other night, but seeing Cage play two people was exhausting for me in the trailer because I was watching all these trailers the other day, and I went. Well, I watched the Equalizer 3, which the Denzel movies. Have you
Oh,
seen
yeah,
any?
yeah, sorry, I was thinking Jason Statham. Yes, I wanna see Equalizer 3. I'll watch anything with Denzel, I swear to God.
I don't understand. Can we just take a sidebar for a second?
Yes.
I don't understand how Equalizer 3 is better than 1. Like,
Is it?
usually a trilogy doesn't get better, and his
John
movies,
Wick,
like,
John Wick, Star
I haven't seen
Wars,
all those. I haven't seen them all.
Empire Strikes Back,
Wait, did you say
or
Star
Return of
Wars?
the Jedi. What? Yeah.
Oh,
The
the
original
original one.
trilogy?
Okay.
Yeah.
No, no, no. Okay. I was like, you were about to upset a lot of fucking people saying it gets better with time. And I'm
No,
not a Star Wars dude, but I know that one.
not
Like,
the
I ain't touching that.
postquels. Not the postquels.
But listen, if you're a fan of Equalizer, because then I went back and I bought Equalizer 1 because I was like, am I remembering shit wrong? Because Chloe Grace Moretz, I love her. She is a doll. She's
She's
so
great.
good in 30 Rock that I just followed her career.
Oh my gosh, that's the first time you saw her?
Yeah,
You didn't see her when she was younger? She
I
was
thought that's
really good.
how she started. I had no idea.
Look at some of her you won't realize that you've actually seen movies with her in it. I bet.
Oh, yeah, I believe that. I believe she's
She's
one
good.
of those. Yeah, yeah. Um, but so I went back and watched 1 right after watching 3, and
Mhm.
3 is on Netflix, right? I believe it's Netflix right now. So what if you have Netflix, watch it while you can. And I'm telling you, this is so weird, but that is the best one now. And
Well,
it's
it's gotta be because Equalizer 2 kinda blew. Like, it kinda sucks. Like, the fight scenes were good, but, like, the rain at the end of the second one, I was like, "What are you doing? Don't no,
maybe because I
stop."
watched it with my brother. I have a buy. You know what I mean? Like I watched it with him. That was the first time I seen it. Me and my brother don't get to spend a lot of time, so maybe I have a fonder memory of the actual movie.
Yeah.
But I
Did
thought
you
too.
watch it in Florida?
No, 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 no. He wasn't living in Florida at the time. He came up here.
Okay.
But no,
Any movie in Florida, I'm just gonna shit just like every other comic with low hanging fruit. I'm just gonna shit on Florida the rest of my life.
go ahead. That state is fucked. I hope it falls in the ocean with Ron DeSantis. I
Just
fucking hate that dude.
tell Gabe to get
Um.
on a train back.
Well. Uh, the sad thing is like Florida used to be affordable, and then if you've seen any of the news stories about the most moved to states, it's like Vermont, Florida, Texas, and there's like a weird one, like not Colorado. I think it might be Utah or something.
Huh.
There's like a
I
weird
don't
one.
know. I think it's Idaho.
Oh, yeah, you might be right. So those states are going to be trashed soon enough because the rent skyrockets. Like I said, I think we talked about on this when my brother moved down there. BlackRock had just bought a town, an entire town, a
Really?
whole town, all the homes in the town to turn into just a big rental community.
Hmm.
Hey, what's up? You want dinner? What? No, no, no. Okay. No, you can go get a snack. Okay. Oh, you know what? Hold on. Let me get my.
Take your earballs out.
There you go. I gotta feed him
Oh,
something. I got.
I thought you
I
were
gotta
leaving.
keep. Oh no, no, no. I just gotta keep certain snacks in here because if not, this kid would just steal them all. So, so he
Here's a
knows
biscuit.
where the good stuff is.
Go on, boy.
Well, listen, today we had to go to the dentist because he came in here and I got this gum. Do you remember this gum? I used to eat this when I was little. It's like a
Fruit by the
roll of
foot.
tape
Fruit by the foot.
as gum. It's gum.
Okay. Yeah.
And he stole a huge. Holy sh! He stole the rest of it. That little. And he was chewing it and he broke a part of his tooth out. So we had to go to
Wait,
the.
what? How do you break a tooth doing it?
Listen, when I called the dentist, I said, in 41 years, I've never seen this.
Bad filling. No, no filling. Just,
So, needless to say, I need to
just
keep some
Jim
stuff
Carrey.
locked. Well, it was a baby mole. It was like a piece of a baby molar in the back.
Oh,
Um, but it was just weird because he was like chewing gum. It was all covered in gum, and he's like, "Dad, I think my tooth came out." And I was like, "That's a piece of it."
I think I lost a
He's like,
tooth like that. All right. Anyway,
"Chewing, chewing gum?
back to the
That's
point.
weird." All right. So,
Back to
anyways,
cat.
yeah. So the other point I wanted to make about the nepo baby thing, and I think again, this is why his when even when Cat was wrong, he was right because it wasn't about the specifics, it was about his message. If you look at like I think this stuff specifically, and you don't have to agree with me, but I just want to plant the seed of thinking about it. I think it's poisoned the well of America, especially for people who like maybe have talent or maybe just need that talent nurtured a little bit, or maybe they just haven't got enough breaks. It's cutting out the legs of people who could get there. And I'm not saying this happens with everyone. There's a lot of people like look at Bo Burnham. It's weird to watch Bo Burnham go from like YouTube to adult YouTube, which is Netflix,
Yeah.
and he did that by himself. He lived 4 towns over from where I am.
Well,
Small little town. In fact, I work right where he lives. Like his parents don't live there anymore, but where he grew up. And this is a dude, so it does happen, and he's very recent. You know what I mean? His last special was 2020. So I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but I'm saying the cost. I think it's poisoned the well of America, and and it translates to different things. Like, no, hold on, I'm almost done. What? No, you see, you're thinking of something to tell me. What? I know you miss mom. Okay. See, this is. Remember, I told you the other day. Listen, remember I told you the other day where
yes.
I will be sitting out there doing work or like
Oh
writing,
yeah,
or
yeah,
I've
yeah.
been I've been releasing videos, so I've been doing all this writing, like writing scripts and editing stuff, and like working really hard. And the whole time I'll be like, "Hey, do you want to do something? Do you want to play? Do you
No,
want to?"
I'm
Bro,
good.
they won't even look at me. They'll be like, "Nah, you can just get away." They'll be like,
Yeah,
"Shoot,"
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
then I'm like, "Okay, I'm gonna go in my office and do something." And they're like, "Yeah, whatever. Get out of here, Dad." And as soon as I shut that door, they're like, "Oh, oh, I gotta tell you something. And I'm like, what? And like right now, he's standing there. He's like, I gotta think. And I'm like, you gotta tell me something. You gotta think. And he's like, I miss mom. And I'm like,
I miss
what?
those days, man. I really do.
Listen, I
Like,
love it, and it's the most adorable thing in the
I know
world.
you do. I know you're very appreciative, but like, appreciate it as much as you can and take video. And if I haven't said it on this, I'll say it again. Take video, everyone, of your little ones because they're gonna get older and you're gonna have 25,000 pictures and you're gonna have no video, so you can't like hear their little squeaks and their little silly questions and just the way they dance and do. I love all that stuff. I
Well, you know
miss
what?
being a kid, let alone my kids being kids.
That's such good advice, and and again, we got to take another sidebar and just deal with this because we're dishing out life advice right now.
Yeah,
The other thing with the digital technology, because I was thinking of exactly what you said, because my daughter, the oldest, somehow has like these videos saved where they're easily accessible, so we can hear them
yeah,
laugh as babies,
yeah,
and
yeah,
it's the most wonderful thing in the world. But with me, and I was complaining about this the other day. I have a 256 gig phone that I've had for 5 years now, I think, and it's full. I can't do anything. I will be editing and my phone just shuts down, just shuts off. And I'm like, oh, great, it crashed again. Because I do so much on YouTube or, just editing, and I have a million photos of the kids. And I was thinking, there's got to be an easier way because I started saving my old phones because they're now little like time machine devices. Like I can crack open that phone and see the
yep, yep,
photos
yep,
from then
yeah,
instead of having a hard drive. And like what you're saying, you have I think I have 20 something thousand photos of my
yeah.
kids. Okay. How do you discern, or there's got to be a better way in this digital space than everything in the cloud? Like there's got to be the next technology I want to see advance is sending a Wi Fi video to some kind of CD or not CD, DVD, where, you know
Mhm.
what I mean? Where it can just, because do you remember burning DVDs and like burning CDs?
What?
Obviously.
No, I'm not that old. I don't know about you, but
I see
I
it in
don't
your
know what you're
face.
talking about, boomer.
I
Fucking
remember
hate
Take
those
That.
people. Anyway, yes.
So, so for those kids that aren't watching this, because I see my demographics,
Yeah, me too.
we we burned CDs, and I think like because my brother sent me this thing where I can hook up to like turn a VHS into a DVD. But why
Hmm.
can't we do anything from our phone just to a DVD? You know what I mean? Because how great would that be to have a collection of memories outside of sending it to some third party where you got to pay a
I
shitload
hate
to.
the cloud. I hate the cloud.
So that's what I mean. Like we listen, patent pending. I'm gonna trademark and copyright this. So go steamboat will yourself to death. This was our idea. You heard it here first. Um, that should be
It
a
was
thing
your
because
idea. I don't need
oh,
it. I appreciate it. You keep it all.
listen, I'm like Katt Williams. I'm trying to put people on, man. I'm trying to help. You know what my son said today driving to the dentist? He said,
Hmm,
"Dad, you know why I want to have a lot of money?" And
hmm.
I said, "Why?" And he said, "So I could give it to the poor." So
Well,
my kid
hopefully you can.
is amazing because I said, you know what? I said, that's why I want to hit the lottery. I said, because we'd probably be broke in a week because of how many people I'd want to help. So there are good people out there, and it's the
Yeah,
youth. Um,
yeah.
so I think that's great advice. You take more
As
videos.
long as
Well, and
he
that's why,
doesn't become a cynical asshole like his father.
good luck. Good luck. As soon as he learns how this world works. Um, and that's what Cat's addressing, full circle. That's exactly what that's why like the anger, the working really hard, and he has a lot to show for it. I think he was more mad that his name was getting muddied, and it was. There's no doubt. Like these people were just ignoring like stuff that had happened and pretend they were rewriting history. Um, and I think he even used that language.
If somebody
Um,
omits something, is that rewriting history though?
and they fully well know,
That they
like
omit it. That's what I'm saying. Somebody
but
not
they're
addressing something.
but they're omitting it on purpose when they're asked about it.
Oh,
You know what I
okay.
mean? Like because if they're omitting it because it skipped their mind, we all have
What
those
about
moments.
omitting it because it's not they don't see it as socially appropriate? I mean, if I have information that I don't want to share about my buddy Rob and somebody asks me a question, And I'm like, you know what? That's a question you have to ask Rob, or I don't know. That's not something I'm going to talk about or whatever. Maybe that's one thing. I don't know.
No, I get that, but I think I keep going back to the Cedric the Entertainer thing, and Cedric denied it. You
That's
know,
different. I
like
agree. That's
that was
different.
like a clear violation of like, bro, don't do that.
Yeah.
Like that's one of those things where like I get Cat's fury. I get
Yeah.
why he was like, I'm coming to, dish it back and really speak what happened and some. Um, but so real quick about Poison in the Well of America. I
Okay.
think this is so important because, and you can relate to this. You know a lot about politics. Look at like just the most high profile instances of this happening. The Trumps,
Okay.
right? You go back to
Yeah.
Fred Trump and how all the doors that had opened for his son Donnie, and then all the doors. I mean, Donnie was trying to push Ivanka into the to the political. You know what I mean? And it's like
Yeah.
that's how we get the Clintons, the Bushes, the the now Trump. You know what I mean? And there's so many more. Like look at the where this really becomes dangerous is like when I learned a couple years about Chuck Schumer's daughters, how Chuck Schumer helps write antitrust laws, and his daughters, what are their names? I wrote them down. Hold on, Jessica Schumer is a
Oh, I
lobbyist
did know that. Yeah.
for Amazon. She's a lobbyist for Amazon. Her dad writes antitrust laws, which Amazon
And
happens to
that's
be involved
Amy Schumer's aunt, right?
in. Is it?
No. No, that's her cousin. That's her cousin.
Okay. I didn't know that. And then Allison Schumer, Chuck Schumer, who again works in politics and writes antitrust laws. His other daughter, Allison Schumer, works at Facebook. I mean, you're telling me
Meta.
Thanksgiving dinner,
Meta.
they're not, oh, I refuse, like, I'm not calling Twitter X. Sorry. Ain't fucking
Let's just,
happening.
I think it's going to be our generation that's like, I refuse to call it that. Like, any new
And
change to
I'll own that.
anything ever, we're just going to be like, it's not called Texacano anymore. I'm only referring to it as Texaco or Shell or whatever that. It's not even
But you know
lazy.
what?
It's just like being again cynical and curmudgeonly. Like
Well, and
I'm
it,
stuck
and
in my ways. I'm not calling him the former art or the artist formerly known as Prince. He'll always be Prince to me. I think
well, and
our
there's
generation invented that.
Well, I was gonna say, well, I'll own that one. That one's a good one because I think it's also from a good spot in our hearts. It shows more of an innocence before things were too corrupted, before Facebook changed to Meta for specific reasons, before
Well, not
Twitter became.
why not call it Face Smash since that's the first thing that Facebook was.
If I knew that, I would call it that. Let's be real. I
It's in
didn't
the
know that.
movie. It's in the movie. I
Oh,
think.
it is.
I don't know. I think
I don't.
so. Yeah, Face Smash. It's like he built it just to be like, who's better looking, this person or this person? That's how the
Oh,
whole
okay.
thing started.
Yeah, I didn't know that was the name though. That's interesting. But yeah, listen, if I genuinely knew that, I would have called it that. But that also goes hyper local too, because I was just talking. There's a couple places around here, like you obviously have heard of the Boston Garden, the legendary place the Celtics played. That has gone through probably 10 name changes since the Garden, and
I know.
my
I know.
generation will still call it the Garden. In fact, the TD North Bank Center, which it was before, finally changed it to like the TD Garden or something like that. They just gave it the Garden because so many people were calling it that, which is smart. Like embrace the legacy. Why would you
Yeah,
want to just
yeah.
fucking put a
We
bank
have a
name on
very we have a very similar thing out here. Dave Matthews loves playing many places. He loves Madison Square Garden. He loves a place in Mexico. There are two places that are somewhat near and dear to my heart. There's a place out here um, that has gone through iteration of names, but it was always known as Deer Creek Amphitheater, and then it was called Klipsch, and now it's called Ruoff because Ruoff is a mortgage company and Klipsch was a audio company or whatever. They just buy the name and whatever that's what it's called, but they sell shirts at the concert say I still call it Deer Creek. So like I love stuff like that. Like Colt Stadium was RCA Dome. Gamebridge Fieldhouse used to be. Oh my god, God, I can't remember what it was called, but Indianapolis. has many of these places that used to be old names, and they're like, I still call it this,
But
whatever.
see, so well, so your point, what you just said, testifies to my point that it's more of about an age of innocence. We're holding
I
on to it,
agree. I agree.
because listen to what you just said. It was Deer Creek, which I'm assuming wasn't a mortgage lender, right?
Correct.
I'm praying that it wasn't, because that
Yes.
slipped. That
It
slipped.
was named after a creek in Indiana. Yeah.
That's what I mean. Just like the garden, I'm assuming it had a public. I don't know why it was called the garden. I genuinely don't. Um, but the garden, it wasn't a bank. I can tell you that it wasn't a mortgage lender. It was just the Boston Garden.
Yeah.
That's it. And then it become multiple. I can tell you it was the Fleet Center. It was the TD Bank North Center. These are all banks, local banks. And that's all they kept naming it. It was different banks, and it's like it's fucking. It's annoying because it's like it's just capitalism at its worst. It's like there's no.
But this has been happening in part and exponentially bad since the 80s. But from my belief system, what I believe happened was it actually started in things like NASCAR and golf. I grew up. My dad was a race car driver before he was in the movie industry, and he kept tabs on certain people, but like really old names that most people wouldn't know. But like Alan Kulwicki, Terry Labonte, some of these Harry Gantz. They're these super old names, and they had one sponsor for like 15, 20 years or whatever. Then what happened was what they call the hat dance. So they will come out starting in the late 80s, early 90s. They would finish a race and they would put on a hat, take a picture, take that hat off, put
A
on another
sponsored
hat
hat.
of no, like a concert hat or like a farmer's hat or whatever, but a ball
Oh,
cap, a ball cap of the sponsor. And you
yeah,
do
yeah.
that and you take a picture with the person.
Hold on, you break it up.
Can you
Uh,
hear me?
okay, now I got you. I got you. I got you.
I
Okay,
don't know what
finish. You
happened.
said
Anyway,
the ball cap.
um, so that and golf. I don't know what it was about seeing certain places, certain events. My dad watched boxing and hockey and baseball and auto racing and drag racing, and I would put on all the other stuff just randomly: tennis, golf, football. My dad didn't really watch football. I watched football, rugby, soccer, whatever. And the only two places I ever remember seeing it was in NASCAR and golf. The series would be called, instead of the NASCAR series, it was the Bush, which is a
Yeah,
beer,
yeah,
Bush
yeah.
series, and this series and that series, and then the joke in the movie Basketball with the creators of South Park was the Tampax series, and like you had all these corporation names that they would make fun of. Like that was the premise to the movie, that they wanted to create something that was outside of sponsorship and all of that. So yes, now that's so anecdotal, but my point is that yeah, that's existed for quite a while now, I believe.
But you said the '80s, so our generation. That,
Unfortunately,
but I'm telling you, this is why we are the way we are. Because when Elon Musk's X, and again, that's not his bank, that's more of his brand. He is
yeah.
infatuated with the letter X, number X. I'm thinking because he names his kids numbers. Um, we refuse to acknowledge, the corporate brand behind that. And I think that's a beautiful thing about our generation that we should continue to own and give to the next generation. And I think it also translates to what Kat is talking. Kat is talking about this, that these things are genuine, that these comics come up and there's a craft to it. That's why he kept talking about how many hours of stand up he wrote, how many 19-hour specials or 20 teen hours of specials, because he takes pride in that. And then these people get, like you said, these motherfuckers don't need the money. And Kevin Hart's trying to tell me that JP Morgan and Chase Bank are going to help me with the needs that I don't even have because, motherfucker, we can't afford food. while you're getting a payday that you don't need for a house that you're not going to live in, for a fucking, car that you're not going to drive, that's a garage that's going to be heated, that you're not going to be using, while the rest of us, and that's what I think why it came off as holier than thou. And I didn't see it like that. I thought it was like a breath of fresh air. Finally, some motherfucker who can relate to us because, like he said in the beginning, he was homeless. He said, what is it, Coco Park or something? That he was homeless in Florida when he was 13. And this is
Maybe.
what I'm,
I don't know.
and I've said this
Oh,
because when I
Cocoa
worked,
Beach. Cocoa Beach.
well, he said there's some park in Miami that he was homeless in. And he
Oh,
said,
okay.
he was living in this park. He left Ohio. He was living in this park, 13. He was homeless. And I've always attested to that because I've seen people like Greg Hill. I worked for him. He's still on a morning show here on a Boston radio station. And he claims he's self made. He doesn't tell you that his dad, uh, was a lawyer. His mom was a Harvard something grad, I forget, and his grandparents owned racehorses, which I found out on the air because I brought in a psychic medium who called him out on it, and he finally attested to it. So people that had known him for 20, 30 years never knew his grandparents owned racehorses. I lived in San Diego, and let me tell you, I knew people who knew people who owned racehorses, and that's like Elon Musk money. Like to
Hmm.
own those high breed caliber horses, you don't have fucking millions. You're in like digit, like that's money you couldn't imagine.
No,
Um,
I can't imagine it. I know somebody who owns horses, and she is not a millionaire.
Racehorses
Yes, race horses, more than one.
and winning ones that compete
I mean,
regularly,
she's had horses for the past 20 years.
and they're all racehorses. And this
She
girl's broke.
only has race horses until they're three or four or five, and
Where
then
is she
she
racing them?
sells them.
Down
And
the street? You know
no,
what I mean? The
there's a
Kentucky
casino
Derby.
and stable at the racetrack in
Oh,
East
I'm not
Indiana.
talking about local. I'm talking about like the big fucking racehorses.
I
Like,
don't know.
okay. Anyways, you don't get to
Anyway,
own those things by being poor. That's my whole point. There's generational fucking wealth there, you know?
maybe.
And but no, I'm telling you, like this dude fucking did not he's not self-made. It's like Trump. He goes like, I'm self-made. I got a small
But
$1 million loan from my
here's where I
parents.
get frustrated with you, Rob, because I mean, if you didn't, it sounds like a judgment where if I told you this is someone who's successful, you would have a feel. I'd be like, starting at 20, this is where they were, and now they're 45, and this is where they are, and they have, let's say, $1 billion. Now, it sounds so often that you are like, great. What was he when he was a kid? And I'm like, oh, this guy was poor. And you're like,
You're not
wow, what a
hearing
great story. As opposed to this kid was middle income or whatever, or his parents had some money
you're
when he
not
was a kid.
you're not hearing what I'm saying. You're
Then
talking
tell me.
apples to oranges.
Okay.
What I'm telling you, what Katt Williams is talking about, is these people rewriting history. This guy, Greg Hill, tells people all the time he pulled himself up by his bootstraps. He
Yeah.
tells this story like I had to work hard for everything I got. And when I asked him, you lived in the same town for 30 years and you lived with your parents until you could buy a house and they try to deny it and they try to pretend like no, I had it rough. Where I go, when I was in my 20s, my parents were dead. I don't get to fall back and go, "Oh, mom, can you babysit my kids?" My story
Yeah.
is much different. So when I get to that caliber, and people are trying to tell me, which he did, he would follow me. We would get off the air. He would come into my office and go, I had a run in with the police. And I go, "Is it the one you talked about on the air, where your
Mm,
parents got you out of it because they knew the cops and it was a small bag of weed?" I said, "That's much different than what I'm talking about, where cops went on the stand and lied about how they raided my friend's house. That the cops, we got off because the cops were found to be perjurers. This is a
yeah.
different fucking story. And that's what I'm talking about. And that's what and that's why I get angry. Because I go, if you try to take what the fuck we've been through and you try to make it something that anyone can do, you're negating what is happening in America, that there is a trap that many people fall not victim to, but can't get out of. That when these people who are rich, who are nepotism babies, who have the talent and maybe it's like Katt Williams said, Steve Harvey stole my story. He said he was homeless, da da da. He told my life story, and I don't blame Kat for being pissed at that. That's the stuff where it's like that is it. What you're saying, if someone was a billionaire like Elon Musk, I don't care that his dad owned an emerald mine and he's the richest man in the world. I don't care about that. What I care about is when he goes, my dad didn't own an emerald mine. You know what I
Well,
mean?
yeah. I mean, it's
Hold
bullshit.
on, hold on. So do you get that?
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about.
And
That's
I
the
don't
most
think Katt
frustrating thing
Williams
in the
is
world.
like, I don't think Katt Williams is revealing this about certain people who, I don't want to say deserve it, but like Ice Cube, you're telling, you want to, I mean, maybe I'm conflating two things, but like, why, why air dirty laundry about supposed friends?
But what did he
Or,
say? He didn't say this about Ice Cube though.
okay, well, I'm saying being, complaining in the manner in which he did, and I'm not saying you can't complain. I don't like quite honestly give a fuck if he wants to say shit about anybody. What I am talking about, I guess, is again, I have to go back to that thing. Why be here and be at this state? If you came from nothing and you want to help people who are coming from nothing, fine. Why shit on Tiffany Haddish? Why say this stuff about, and I don't care about the comic to comic. I don't care about Cedric the Entertainer. And I haven't even gotten to that, which I need to wrap up soon, apparently, because something's going on in my house. But
Well,
um,
yeah, we're at an hour too, so we can kind of wrap. But this story doesn't end here either. I don't think.
no, I don't think so either. I just wanted to say, after deep research, and albeit brief, after looking at old, and I know how to look up, who said what first and all that as far as comics go. And I made sure I researched first, and I was like, it looks like he stole this joke from Cat. Like that seems very legit to me. Not just because of the production time, but because exactly what Cat said. He was like, "What do you mean there's no timeline? I did this in 2016 or 2018. You saw me for 30 shows do this joke. And in 2020, you decide in January or whatever the last time he did it, January 2020, before the pandemic, he does it and he changes the joke to a spaceship. If anybody does know what we're talking about, we still encourage you to watch the Shay Shay interview and then the follow up on, I mean, it's all over the internet. There's no lack of information when it comes to this, but for people's opinions. So he definitely stole the joke. And then I watched Cedric the Entertainer's Denial, and I was like, you are so bad. You're not even trying to, like, it's not even close to. He was like, I don't know what he's talking about, man. I mean, if
Well,
you're
hey, and
Cedric
just
the
so you know,
Entertainer and somebody accuses you of stealing a joke, you're like, that guy's out of his fucking mind, and he better fucking back off. Like, you don't be like, hey man, I don't know what he's talking about. You know what I mean?
you almost wonder if they forget that we live in the day and age of the internet.
Of
Like
course they do. Of course they
well,
do.
and just so you know, and this is why I think Cedric did it because that was one of the times Cat messed up the date. It wasn't 2018, and the producer on the Shay Shay Club, which I feel so dumb saying it, but I really do. I hate saying that title. The Shay Shay. This is so it's like the morning zoo. But the producer says, "Hey, Kat, I want to just clarify the dates." And it was actually like 1996, 97, or 98, and then 2000. You know what I mean? So it
Yeah,
was way
yeah.
longer. So I
I'm
think that's
still
why
going off of
Cedric.
what he said.
No,
Yeah.
no, no. But I think that's why Cedric was like, "What are they going to do? Find the tape?" And then people found the tape, which I was kind of shocked. Some of this stuff you're shocked of, like, wow. Like when I saw the cat in Detroit, I was like, "Yo,
Hmm.
who is thinking to film something on a phone? It's done on a phone in like 2001." And I'm
Yeah,
like, "Yo." I had a camera on my phone. I didn't even think to use it. I was like, what do you do with this thing?
yeah,
Or maybe not in 2001, but like 2005, six. So I think these dudes forget, like, yo, anything that can be found on record is going to be found, dug up, and put on
yeah.
YouTube.
Do you know what happened? A random story that I'll put out. Anything can be found on the internet. I got in a fight when I was 15 years old, and all of my friends swore I was gonna win this fight. And they were like, "We're getting the camera, we're getting the video camera, and we're gonna go up to the field, and you have so many people coming to this fight, Brendan." And I'm like, "What? Why?" Like, I was a nobody. But sure enough, I got up to that field. There's like a high school down here and then another school up here, and that's where we met on this giant football field. And man, it could not have gone worse. My guys, I had 50, 60 kids behind me, and this dude I'm gonna fight and his brother and his best friend just walk towards the camera. And the second he got close enough, he took a shot and he beat my ass for 5 fucking minutes straight. I got
On
one
camera?
hit on camera. I had one shot in, and this kid's just beating the shit out of me. And at one point, I'm so winded. I'm just like, "Hey man, get off me, whatever." I say how embarrassing this is because I was like, "Well, thank God that'll never be found." And in like 2008, 2009, so that fight was in like 1994, 95 time frame, maybe 96. And I was like, "Well, thank God that thing's gone to history because it made cycles around my." I grew up in Saugus, California. You know Saugus, Massachusetts, especially for recent events involving a fight. I grew up in Saugus, California, which was named after Saugus, Massachusetts, where the founder was from. But anyway, um, everybody in Saugus saw that thing my age. And in 2008, I was on the internet and I saw a compilation of high school fights. And I'm
I
like,
was just gonna
man,
say,
I'm like watching, I'm like, man, this is embarrassing. These guys, oh man, I'd hate to be, oh shit. Oh God.
like,
Oh God,
I gotta
no,
report this.
no, God. Oh my God, that's me.
You
It
know
was
what's
only
funny?
like 15 seconds, but it was the best or worst 15 seconds of that entire thing. So people know how to edit stuff and find stuff apparently, because that was on one VHS tape that probably got copied 4 or 5 times in a tiny town in California way back in the day.
Yeah, but you're talking about, so if you're saying like 2005-ish, that was, if you remember that time, that was like the prime, um, really like birth of YouTube, internet, and YouTube
Oh,
wasn't big,
totally.
but
Totally.
but it was also during that time. It was like bum fights was huge.
Yep.
Not World Star, but before World Star, there were like backyard fights.
Yeah.
That's what I
Backyard
say.
fist
Like it's
fights
funny.
or bare knuckle fights, bare
Yeah,
knuckle
yeah, yeah.
backyard and stuff like that. Yeah. Where
And
Kimbo
those,
Slice got big and all of that.
yeah, yeah. And it was like not, again, it was like almost like you had to download it through LimeWire or know someone
Yeah,
who could
you had
show you the
torrents. You had torrents and LimeWire and what was it, Napster and
monster. That's it.
there was one more Windows Media Player that we
And you
had.
have them. So
Kids,
your video
they
just
just
happened
don't
to
know.
peak at that like weird time of like the Girls Gone Wild era where it was like VHSs were making their way to
Oh
the
my
internet.
god.
Before we wrap up, I just want to say this.
Yeah.
You know how to tell someone's age if they say they videoed it or they videoed it. That's the fuck.
Or they or that they rolled down the window. I just did that to my kid today. I was like, "Hey." And he was like, "Are you fishing?" I was like, "No,
Remember
roll
the
down
Grey
the window."
Poupon commercial?
Of course. Yeah.
Kids don't remember that. Google, that's on YouTube probably.
Oh, those old commercials, man. I like looking at those every now and then on YouTube where it's like 80s commercials and then they're just misogynistic and racist and ableist and ageist and everything. But for everybody who, complains about it, more than anybody, in my opinion, they made white older men seem to be the dumbest humans on the planet. Homer
100%.
Simpson, Al Bundy, like every man
Zach
in America
Morris.
was Zach Moore. Well, even he was smart compared to,
No,
a
he was
lot of
like
those
the
others.
scumbag smart. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't smart. It was like
No,
it was a
Slater was
long.
the dumb one, remember? He was pretty, but he was dumb.
Yeah, but he was the moral code. I think, of the ethical one.
Mario Lopez was?
Yeah, he
Oh,
was he was
man,
monogamous with Jesse,
the
right?
show was like that. The show was like that. I don't think any one character like Screech would have, an episode where everyone was like, "Oh," you remember that? I mean, that was the time for all of that. 80s through the, let's say, almost mid 90s. Like even Full House was still big.
No,
Rose
through the 90s,
through the 90s, yeah.
when sitcoms had theme songs. That was the changing in the era. Sitcoms had theme songs, and
What do you mean? What kind of theme songs? Because like
you
Roseanne
could
didn't have.
fucking sing along. You could
Okay,
sing along.
what's Roseanne's theme song?
Uh,
Yeah,
I don't
you're
know.
not gonna remember it because I know it, and you're not gonna remember it.
It's like whistling or something, right?
No,
Fucking.
it's just instrumental, but um, it uh,
Oh, it's the
it
harmonica, not whistling. It's the
yeah.
harmonica.
Good job.
You could sing along with that. It
Well,
was a
you
song.
could.
It
Okay,
was a
so
song.
yeah, I mean, Golden Girls. Everybody now knows Golden Girls. That was like being a Patriots fan for me, anyway. Being from LA and now living in Indianapolis, being a Patriots fan fucking sucks anywhere else outside of Boston. But
No, it
um,
sucks for you.
when I was like in the late '90s through the 2000s, I was singing the Golden Girls theme song, and people were like, "You're fucking weird, bro." And I was like, "Whatever, man. Just hanging out with Blanche and the girls." Or I would call somebody Rose when they would have a story that went on too long. Like, I
I
mean, I
knew a
had,
guy like you. I knew a guy like you later in life that was like a Golden Girls fan. I still don't get it. I know there's a lot of people that
oh, it was
are.
just so good. It was just, there's nothing I watched every single episode of that. I watched every single episode of, I'm trying, like, do you remember Nick at Night?
Oh yeah, yeah.
So I got like deep into like Donna Reed and My Three Sons and what was the one with the pig? Abner? No, that was Bewitched. I watched Bewitched. Little Acres? No. What was the Little? No, the one with the Arnold the pig. Anyway, Green
I know it.
Acres.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Green Acres is the place to be. Zsa Zsa Gabor was on
Because
there.
if we were homesick from school, a lot of those played at the daytime. Like I Dream of Jeannie, I watch that every day.
Oh,
And
oh
Gilligan's
yeah,
Island or
oh
MASH.
yeah.
Dan, dan, dan,
Not
dan,
Mash. I didn't
dan.
watch Mash as much. I didn't like
Cheers.
the.
I'll never forget. Cheers came out at like I forget what time it aired. It was between 9 and 11,
Well,
and
it's because you live in Boston.
well, and my mom. So every year my birthday's in November, and every year my mom would take me to the Garden to a Celtics game for my birthday, and she would bring me to Cheers after at like midnight. And the bartender, I mean the bouncer, every time would be like, "He can't come in here." She was like, my mom, little tiny thing from Brooklyn. You don't tell her what to do. You just don't. And she would be like, "We're going to get French fries. He's coming to see the iconic place." You know, like
Oh
just
my
push
god,
our
it's
way
funny.
in. And I would be like 10 years old in fucking the Bowl and Finch pub. That's what it's called. Yeah, ripping fucks. And I'd always be like, "Can we just go home? It's like 1 in the morning."
Were you ever on a plane? We gotta wrap this up. Were you ever on a plane when they smoked still?
Wait, what did you say?
Were you ever on a plane when they smoked still?
Oh yeah, I used to love
I vividly
flicking
remember
the
both of my
ashtray.
parents.
You could
Yeah,
flick.
in the armchair.
Yeah, that's so funny, man.
And at one point there was a smoking section on the plane.
Yeah, I love that.
Oh,
You gotta go.
is that you?
Yeah, that was me because my headphone said it's gonna die. So
Oh, okay. All right. I'll peace out with you.
listen,
We'll
um,
continue this again.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So because there's a lot we didn't get to touch upon. This interview is 2 hours and 40 something minutes, 46 minutes or whatever.
All
I
right.
highly suggest you watch it. I would like to continue this next week, same time, roughly this time, Thursday night. I keep watching all these YouTube creator videos, and they're like, you gotta be consistent, same time, you know. So Thursday, put in your calendars. We'll be here. Watch the Katt Williams. That's your homework at home. It's very good. I still think I have such a biased view, because I think no matter what, Cat can be wrong as hell on dates or whatever, or like Faison Love. He's like Faison don't tour, and I looked it up. I'm like, he's touring right now. He
Yeah,
it's very small
it's just
venues, like,
silly stuff.
but his overarching message was dead accurate. He's only speaking truth. So watch that. We'll catch you next week. I'll talk to you. I'll talk to you later or tomorrow or whatever.
Okay.
I don't know how to shut the live off. Jesus. I'm
Yeah,
just
how do
gonna
we do?
exit. I can't figure this
Yeah,
out.
I'm just gonna get out of here. You
Yeah.
guys
Okay.
take care. We'll see
See
you.
you.